Alrighty, well, it is noon, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. The Virginia chapter is happy to assist in this webinar series, the Mid-Atlantic Planning Collaboration webinar series. Today we have Planning for Clean Water with 3 speakers. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. Breck Sullivan. Breck is employed by the U.S. Geological Survey and works at the Chesapeake Bay program as the Scientific Technical Assessment and Reporting Coordinator and Ecosystem Analyst. She oversees strategic direction for meeting the science needs, within STAR and the CBP Global Implementation teams. She also supports analysis activities to advance understanding of factors affecting trends in estuarine, water quality, and living resources. She received her master's from State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Environmental Monitoring and Modeling. We also have Ruth Castley here with us. Ruth is employed by the College of Agricultural Science and Technology at the University of Maryland and works within the Chesapeake Bay Program Science Analyst and Implementation Branch as a non-point source policy analyst. She provides technical assistance in analyzing nutrient loads and sources to allow stakeholders to more effectively target best management practices and develop policies that leverage limited resources to achieve maximum pollution reduction results. She holds a bachelor's degree in land and water management from the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources at UMD and an MD secondary science teaching certification. Lastly, we have Kaylin Gutman. Kaylin received an undergraduate degree in environmental studies from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 2010. She worked for the UNC Institute of Marine Sciences, studying tidal freshwater rivers and estuarine environments. In 2011, Kaylin was hired as an Oak Ridge Institute for Science and Education postgrad researcher with the EPA, National Center for Environmental Assessment. She received her PhD in ecology from UNC and in 2019 and completed a postdoctoral fellowship with the West Virginia University Institute for Water Security and Science. Kaylin rejoined the EPA with the Chesapeake Bay Program Office in 2022 as a life scientist with the Science Analysis and Implementation branch, where she coordinates and provides technical assistance to jurisdictions to explain short and long-term water quality monitoring trends. So we have 3 excellent speakers ahead of us today. Thank you to our speakers for joining and contributing to this series. I'm going to run through some quick housekeeping items. So we really encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation and primarily when we get to the Q&A portion of the presentation. So if you can just submit your questions using the Q&A feature here, as opposed to the chat feature, that will allow our presenters to keep track of all inquiries. You can use the chat feature to reach out if you have any logistical questions or to answer the poll, which you will see in a minute. You can also use the raise hand feature to request to be unmuted if you'd rather ask your question live then. So I will also note that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared to the collaboration's YouTube channel, which I will share the link to shortly in the chat box, along with other helpful resources and the CM credit number as well. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So at this point, I am going to stop sharing and hand it over to our presenters. And I'm just going to launch the poll just to get an idea of where you all are joining from. And we'll wait for people to answer. Alrighty. So looks like most of us are calling in from Virginia. But we have some others across the collaboration regions. Alrighty.
Just checking. Can you see the slides? Great.
And it looks like we have some people in the chat just mentioning where they're coming from, North Carolina. But anyway, so I will, with that in hand, I will hand it over to Breck.
Thank you. Yes, so today we'll be presenting on the Chesapeake Bay tools for assessing synthesis information for non-tidal and tidal water quality, restoration targeting, management practice implementation, and planning for a change in the Chesapeake Bay and its watershed. I'm personally going to focus on the tributary summaries in this presentation, and then I'm going to pass it on to Kaylin and Ruth to discuss the Chesapeake Bay watershed dashboard. But before diving into the slides, thank you so much for having us today. We're really excited to showcase these tools for you, as you are the audience that we really want to utilize this information and help create change in the Bay and its watershed. I'd also like to thank our team behind this amazing work. So we have the Integrated Trends Analysis team at the Chesapeake Bay program that help with the tributary summaries. And then there's also a data dashboard team to help to make sure that we're continually updating and making it useful for our users. So as a little overview, I will first provide a brief introduction on what the tributary summaries are, and then dig deeper into the Potomac and York River summaries to represent one tributary summary with the additional insights on change section in that report, and then address one that does not have the insight on change section to help explain, the difference, but also how they both can be useful. And then I will go into a live demo for one of the story maps that we have in association with a tributary summary, and then a few next steps on how we are moving forward with these summaries. I'll then again pass it on to Kaylin for her to do a high-level review of the data dashboard, and then for Ruth to do a live demo of the dashboard with a focus on targeting restoration. So what are the tributary summaries? They are the analysis that federal, state, and academic researchers do all in one place to help readers learn about their watershed. We have a total of 13 different tributary summaries. The tributary summaries, sorry, I think this might be on automation, which didn't mean for that to happen. The tributary summaries are really compilation of information by tributary or region, and includes information on tidal water quality and trends that we show through gaps over time through various long-term and short-term periods. They also include watershed characteristics and changes such as nitrogen and phosphorus, and sediment loads from the watershed to the tidal waters. In the tributary summaries, there is also information on landscape drivers, which showcases factors that affect water quality change over time, such as this right graph, which shows changes in load source by sector from CAST, which is the Chesapeake Assessment Scenario Tool. We also have these tributary summaries as documents to make sure that they are being used by various audiences, including technical managers within jurisdictions who are looking at the data and trying to figure out why patterns are occurring. They are also made for local watershed organizations to understand the analysis and working to connect it to their local areas. I'm so sorry about this, everyone. Did not mean for it to happen. So yes, and then also we have it for federal, state, and academic researchers because a lot of this work is incorporated, of their work is incorporated into these tributary summaries. So you can find these tributary summaries on CAST, which is again, the Chesapeake Assessment Scenario Tool. And you can find it on the homepage where you can click on the track progress. And then that will go to the tributary summaries tab, where it will then locate you to the link where all of those are available. It's also available on our Integrated Trends Analysis Team webpage on the Chesapeake Bay program site. You can scroll down past the gray box and it will be the first one under the projects and resources, where it will provide you a link again to CAS where those tributary summaries are located. You can also find it on the data dashboard, which we will go into later. But the purpose of these tributary summaries is really to help answer the questions such as, how have water quality indicators in my river been improving or degrading over time? But then also to ask questions on, what should I target to turn a degrading trend around or maintain improvements of water quality and living resource conditions? Today, we're going to look at two tributary summaries, the Potomac tributary and York River. And first, I'm going to jump into the Potomac tributary summary, which was completed in 2020 and right now has data from 1985 to 2021. We are working to update it to 2022, and that's for all the tributary summaries. And then this one is the only one that has a story map associated with it. And first, I'm going to jump into what data is available in the Potomac tributary summary. And I do want to note that while the information that I'm about to show is very specific for the Potomac tributary summary, the overall topics are available in all of the tributary summaries. I will start by showing the total estimate of observed loads to the tidal Potomac for nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment. I'll note that for the true condition loads, they're highly variable due to freshwater flows. But for the estimated loads to the tidal Potomac, the total nitrogen has an overall decline that is significant due to substantial efforts to reduce nitrogen loads from wastewater treatment plants and the introduction of the Clean Air Act. And then for total phosphorus and suspended solids, sediment, we have an overall decline that is not significant. Now jumping into the trends. For this one, it's specifically for bottom dissolved oxygen in the Potomac. I first want to say that for these graphs that I'm showing right now, the green triangle, that represents an improving trend, and orange represents a degrading trend. And then for the shapes, the triangle represents a significant trend and the circle represents possible trends. And the gray diamonds are unlikely trends. We have this information available for the long-term observed change and also the flow adjusted change, which means if the flow period was averaged out for that time period. We also have available the short-term trends. So that's the most recent 10 years observed, and that's for observed change, and then also for the latest 10 years, last 10 years. So for the actual trends for bottom dissolved oxygen in the Potomac, we see that for summer bottom DO, it's improving at many stations, but flow adjusted trends show some decreases. And then I want to note that summer DO is really variable, and we are seeing degrading trends higher up in the tributary for short term compared to the unlikely trends in the long term. And so I'm showing this for bottom dissolved oxygen, but we have graphs available for total nitrogen, total phosphorus, chlorophyll A, Secchi depth, and water temperature in the tributary summaries. Another item that we have available in the tributary summaries is information on water quality criteria. So here we showcase a graph on attainment deficit, and this is showing how close a segment comes to full attainment or 0% deficit. Previously in the tributary summaries, we showed water quality attainment as binary, so just yes or no if it met attainment or not. But with these graphs, we're able to see, how close is it getting to attainment? Are we making progress or are we not? So these graphics shows that open water criterion was at or near zero from the start of monitoring to the most recent assessment period covered, which is 2019 to 2021 in 10 segments. And then by contrast, the other segments showed a high degree of variability. So those are those graphs where you see a lot of the up and down movements. And for this particular one, the deep water and deep channel criteria were applicable to only 2 segments. So those are the blue and green lines. So another thing that we have in the tributary summary is something that combines information. So this graph overlays tidal water quality standards attainment, so what I just showed you, with tidal water quality trends. And so this is, we're taking these water quality trends that we have in this map of the 4 panels into the graph that we have with the 2 panels. And again, taking the water quality attainment information and combining it with the water quality trends. So overlaying this information can help assess if progress is being made towards attainment in a segment not meeting criteria, or if conditions are degrading. For open water in this particular example, you can see 2 sections are meeting the criteria. So that's the green part of the tributary. And the orange section for open water, DO is not attaining, so that's that orange section. But the underlying indicators, so the water quality trends that we're seeing, has an improving trend. So that's that green triangle. And the same is happening for deep channel. So again, while we may not be attaining water quality, we are seeing some underlying indicators that it's improving in that area. So for the Potomac and for the Rappahannock tributary summaries, we have a section that the team calls the Insights on Change section, and it really helps to get at why we're seeing certain changes. And this section also helps us understand and answer questions such as, how do tidal waters respond to actions in the watershed? And for the Potomac tributary, I'm going to go into 2 important findings that we found by adding this Insights on Change section to the summary. So for the first finding, both the Mattawoman Creek and Gunstone Cove had very large wastewater reductions. And as a result, we see an increase in SAV coverage, improving SECI depth, and a degrading chlorophyll A. So what does this tell us? It shows that the data that with large investment in large-scale nutrient reductions, we can see success in improving water quality dramatically in local stations. So again, we reduced the wastewater loads, and we were able to see some improvements. For the second important finding, about the same number of Potomac stations in the watershed have improved over the long term as have degraded for nitrogen. In addition, for tidal nutrient concentrations have decreased at almost all tidal stations. These tidal trends are not just a local response. Researchers have shown that with sampling and analysis that the nitrogen along the Potomac River is from a mixture of sources, including wastewater, fertilizer, manure, and atmospheric deposition. So what does this tell us? The data shows that watershed-wide nutrient reductions have improved nutrients in the Potomac. The science supports the conclusion that with more reductions, improvements will continue. So now I'm going to go into another example through the York River tributary summary. And this tributary summary does not have an Insights on Change section, but that doesn't mean we can't draw conclusions and have information be used to help understand the changes in water quality. So one key finding for the York River is that patterns are relatively consistent from watershed to estuary, with both parameters mostly increasing. And information such as land use development and long-term loads can help understand nutrient trends, such as how the York River loads have plateaued. And with this kind of pattern, we wouldn't expect water quality to improve, especially if development continues to increase. So now I'm going to take a break from these ever-changing slides that I did not mean to happen, I'm sorry, and do a live demo of our tributary summary story map. So we understand that A lot of the information in tributary summaries is technical, and we want to be able to relay this information so that people can help inform changes that they're doing, help inform planning for clean water. And one way we're hoping is through story maps. So this one is for the Potomac Tributary Report. And we still find the report to be very useful because it contains a lot more information than what we can put in a story map. But hopefully the story map can be used as something for you to show your local entities, for your groups that you're working with. But then you can refer back to the report for more of the details and understanding. So the Potomac Tributary story map includes at first some just quick links, and it's really taking the information right from the report. So you'll see some of the same headers on the story map from what I just showed you. So you'll see we have water quality status, that again is the water quality attainment that I showed. Here we'll see, different graphs on the water quality trends that I showed in the presentation, but it starts out by first giving you a first look of where we are, where the tributary is, and the watershed that's associated with that tributary. We have information about the Potomac itself, the land use that is connected with the Potomac River watershed, and I find, this slider to be really cool so that you can see how it's changed over the years. And this is where we get into those water quality trends. And it shows also the different salinity zones, mesohaline, the oligohaline, and tidal fresh in the story map. It starts with total nitrogen, then we go to total phosphorus, and includes other various parameters. Now, one thing I would like to state about the story map is we only have one currently with the Potomac, and we are looking for feedback on, is this story map useful? Is there different ways that we could display this information to help you better understand? And so we're not necessarily locked to this presentation of the story map. And we have an intern this summer who will be working with us to help understand, how can we better translate the information in a story map? How can we better get the information out there and create a template so that we can use it for other ones and not just the Potomac. Again, here's information on the water quality status, showing those two graphs, two panels that I showed previously, where we combine information on water quality attainment with the water quality trends. Then we can get into factors affecting trends, such as geology, sources. This information comes from CAST and lets us know about the different sources that are affecting sediment, phosphorus, and nitrogen. We also have different management practices that could be affecting the trends. Point sources, some information on wastewater treatment plants for the Potomac, and resources that you can go to and click on. And then just general other factors that could be affecting trends. So this also provides a little summary that we have and credits, and we thank very much for USGS to help us with the story map and for those who put in the information from the tributary report into the story map. So again, this is the only one that we have associated with our tributary summaries. We are looking to create a template for it and would really love feedback. If you're interested on, testing this out and meeting with our interns or ourselves, or want to send us an email of what you thought, this is something that we'd really love to get input, because we want it to be used by people like yourself. So I will go back to our presentation for just a few follow-up slides, and then I can pass it on to Kaylin to start on the data dashboard. So again, that's the link for the Potomac story map that we have, and we will have an intern this summer to help create a story template. So if you're interested in providing us feedback, we'd love to connect with you. And some next steps for us that we have for the tributary summaries is that we're looking to update the information. Currently, it's up to 2021. We now have information for 2022. And we're hoping to also make it a more automated approach so that we can update these tributary summaries more regularly, either on an annual or biannual basis, so that they can be updated for use. So Kaylin, I will now pass it on to you for the data dashboard information.
Thank you so much, Brett. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. So I'm gonna start off with just a quick overview of the data dashboard and then pass it off to Ruth for a live demo. So the Watershed Data Dashboard is an online tool that provides accessibility and visualization of a large amount of scientific data and technical information with the goal of helping guide water quality and watershed planning efforts, which thus provide guidance on how and why these information sources should be used. The data dashboard can also inform restoration efforts for environmental managers and planners at both the state and local levels, and assist with watershed restoration plan development and implementation. So there's a lot of different parts of the watershed data dashboard. And so the really brief summary of it, it's a compilation of information at both of these spatial scales to inform restoration efforts. So a couple examples I'm going to run through. So we're showing here both on the left, you'll see watershed water quality monitoring trends, and on the right, you'll see tidal trends. So these are housed on the data dashboard. The data dashboard is another way that you can access these tributary summary reports and access Bay Trends Mapper, which is a really great Our Shiny app you can use to look at these data and generate plots just here on the right, which we've got on the slides. So we can certainly provide links directly to those or show you how to get to those on the data dashboard. And on the left again, this is watershed data from the Chesapeake Bay program non-tidal network, which is data that are collected in a partnership with USGS and our jurisdictional partners. Next slide, please. So this is showing an example here of tidal water and watershed trends at a bigger scale. And we can use this information to help geographically target restoration efforts, looking at places with, on the far left, highest loading areas across the Chesapeake Bay watershed, identifying vulnerable groundwater. So where are these vulnerable aquifers located? Another example here is looking at estimated soil phosphorus content on agricultural lands. On the right, we have this understanding sources, which will be part of the example that Ruth is going to walk you through. So we'll get a further breakdown of that, but we're looking at different land use, different load sources and things. And there's really, what's really fantastic about the data dashboard is you don't have to be an expert in ArcGIS or finding data or a data analysis expert. This is a way for you to ask questions, find answers, and really drill down to your area of interest, be it a state level, county level, or even smaller stream level. Next slide, please. And another big part of the data dashboard is information to help choose best management practices or BMPs. So on this table on the left, we can see a number of BMPs that are listed, and the subsequent columns are the average nitrogen dollar amounts by pounds reduced, same for phosphorus. And this is all, pulling from the high resolution land use data, which our program puts out in, collaborative efforts between EPA, USGS, and our other partners. And this really high resolution data, and we're getting, here it's shown as a 30-meter resolution for a 30-meter riparian corridor. And, in the next little bit here, we're going to have even higher resolution data. So lots of potential there for management decisions. Next slide, please. Another part of the data dashboard is identifying opportunities for smart growth and land conservation. So rather than having to do the work yourself and put all of these different data sources together, come up with how they're related, identifying, best places to put certain practices or conserve, there's tools on the data dashboard to help you do this. And again, you can be on a larger scale and you can really zoom in on your area of interest, where you work, what's important to you, and your piece of the region. Next slide, please. And another aspect too, we're not just only focused on water quality with the Chesapeake Bay watershed data dashboard. There's lots of information about living resources, those connections to water quality, but other factors as well. So here we're looking at submerged aquatic vegetation, acres and density, over, can't quite see the bottom axis there. Hang on a second. Looking over time. So this is something you can get to on the data dashboard, and you can see over time, since the start of the Chesapeake Bay, the original watershed agreement, we were pretty low in our density of SAV in number of acres, and through efforts of the partnership and, across the region, we're hitting that target and staying above that goal. Next slide, please. And the data dashboard, it's really a way that we can, provide information that is useful to a number of different audiences, involved in restoration, conservation planning. So we really want to reach local planners, state agencies, and watershed groups. So it's, you don't just have to be fully engrossed in data or, geographic mapping tools to be able to answer questions that may be of relevance to you. So Ruth is going to be talking about an example with targeting restoration and conservation efforts geographically by sector and or practice. But the data dashboard really can also be used to develop scenarios for CAST, or the Chesapeake Assessment Scenario Tool. There's also a lot we can do with outreach and communication. And one aspect we really think about is building local stories to engage with stakeholders. So now we are going to our live demo portion. So here showing, when you go to the data dashboard homepage, you'll get this link. You click on it, there's a bar at the top where you can explore different tabs. Each tab has a lot of background information that you can choose to read or not read. But if you click on targeting restoration and then understanding sources, this dashboard on the left will show up, which Ruth will walk us through. But some questions that folks might ask might be, what are the sources and drivers behind water quality? What are primary pollutants? Where does pollution come from geographically? What are these primary sources? And how is pollution making its way into streams? So this is a really great starting point. And that can then help inform, maybe you want to put in some BMPs. So how do you choose these BMPs? And there's some questions here that can come as like a next step. So this part's also available as well. And with that, I am going to hand over the reins to Ruth here, and we will go to our live demo.
Okay. Hey, hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to probably keep my video camera off because I have bandwidth issues. So, and you'll be looking at the screen anyway. Let me share my screen quickly, and you can tell me when you all can see the data dashboard.
Yeah, we can see it, Ruth. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm really excited about being here with you to talk about the data dashboard briefly. Couple of things I'll start with. The current data available on the dashboard is from we have the most current non-tidal and tidal water quality trend data, which is 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong, Breck or Kaylin. And the RIM data. The data for CAST is the progress year 2020. And we're rapidly hard at work trying to get the next two progress years on so that it will be more relevant for the progress year 2021 and 2022. We're always a little lag behind that, so we're going to try to get that done as soon as possible. But right now, anything that I'm showing you today in terms of targeting restoration is from the Progress Year 2020 in CAST. So I just wanted to point that out. When you get to the data dashboard, this is the home page. One thing I really like about it is this is a lot of the same information that Kaylin just went over is right here on the introductory page. So it kind of tells you what are the things you can use the dashboard for. But I really like this feature down at the bottom here for how can I get started. It's a handy chart that actually goes by purpose. So it's what are you trying to do on the left? And then it'll give you an example of the topics that are available and the module in the dashboard that covers that topic. So I'm going to be doing the understanding local pollution sources and drivers here of water quality halfway down. And for that, I would be using the targeting restoration dashboard. So that's just something quick to point out for if you're trying to get on this and get familiar with exactly how to use it. You can see all the modules available across the top here. We have rivers and streams. That's all the non-tidal data, monitoring data, and wastewater quality data, wastewater treatment plant data. The title section, the targeting restorations is what I'm going to be going through. Management practices deals with BMP and BMP implementation, and all of that's based on county level information. And then, like Kaylin said, the land policy and conservation module, and then the prioritizing other benefits, which goes through a lot of the co-benefits of BMP implementation. So if you click on the targeting restoration module, this is what you come to. And basically, this is the map of the whole watershed, and there's a lot of different ways to filter here. It gives you this information down the side for explaining some different points about understanding sources. The other modules that are available here are nutrient management nutrient application management, wastewater treatment plants, and then geographic targeting. So I'm going to focus on the understanding sources. It's always good to go into the separate window, and then you can here on the left, and then it'll open up into this view where you have a better visual view of everything you're trying to see. Over here on the right, you'll see different ways to filter your information. So you can filter by major river basin. You can do it by a particular river if you're interested in a watershed. You can do it by state. You can do it by county. You can do it by tidal segment. Down here, you'll also want to be targeting for the load source you're interested in. I have it set on nitrogen. I know a lot of the local TMDLs, say in Pennsylvania, are really emphasizing sediment reduction. So for that, you'd want to, zero in and choose sediment. I'm going to stick to nitrogen right now. And then down here is the selection delivered to the bay, or the other option is delivered to local streams. And that has to do with the load, what is entering the local stream that's closest to the land source versus what's actually making it to the bay after attenuation has happened. So I'm going to have it on the local streams when I'm going through this, just so you can see that the load that's delivered closer to home. And I'm also going to filter, I could do this by county. So if I was, working in Howard County or something, I might want to do that. But let's say I wanted to look at the Potomac River Basin. I would just check Potomac River Basin, and mine might take a minute to load. And you can see over here, I have this is broken down into land river segments, which is the smallest portion of land available in CAST. And basically, they're usually portions of counties, and then the intersection of the watershed, the boundary of the watershed that intersects that portion of the county. And this is the smallest parcel available in CAST for load sources. So what you can see here is basically what it's showing me is the nitrogen load in pounds per acre. And this is delivered to local streams. So you can see the darkest color here would be my highest loading land river segment for this particular river basin for the Potomac. So I'm just going to go ahead and if I click on it, it brings it up and tells me that that's in Franklin County. It has the land river segment name, so that would be available in CAST, and you can find out what actual segment you're dealing with in terms of river and within the Potomac River Basin. But when I click on it, it brings up these graphs automatically. These two up here are the same thing. The pie chart and the graph here are both land use acres. It's just a different way of looking at the same information, and it breaks it down into agricultural land use, developed land use, and natural land use. If I wanted to get more information, I could go to my bar chart, and anytime you hover above something, it gives you the actual amount in acres. So one of my highest land uses for agriculture is hay in Franklin, in this particular Land River segment. And it's a 21,960 acres. Anytime I hover over, it's going to give me what the breakdown is. And I can see that most of my land use for agriculture is used for row crops. It also happens to be, if I look down here at the pie chart below, the breakdown of loads, I can see that my number one load source for nitrogen in agriculture is row crops. So it's 1,375 pounds of nitrogen per year are coming from row crops. So, I can get an idea of, if I were trying to implement BMPs, what would I want to target? Well, my top load source is row crops. So I would probably want to implement something that targets the row crops, like nutrient management. I can come over here to my next highest is feeding space. So that would be, more around the barnyard area. So I'd want to choose BMPs that would target that area. So it gives you that information and that breakdown. Then if I wanted to get a better idea, so well, let me stop and see if are there any questions in the chat, because I'm not really monitoring. So do I have any questions at this point about anything on this particular page?
There have been a few, but your co-presenters have been answering them.
Okay, great. Okay. So let me go back. I can also do, I don't want to pick on the Potomac. I have a little bit of a lag. I was going to pick York if I uncheck. And then also, I didn't even zoom in, but you have the option to do. I don't know why this is not disappearing. I'm getting a little bit. There we go. You could also pick a river within the watershed basin. So if I wanted to zoom in by river within the Potomac, I could pick Anacostia. And then what it would do is show me all of the land river segments. And let me just zoom in a little bit here. All of the land river segments that feed into the Anacostia, then I could zoom into them, and you can see as I hover over them, it tells me what county that particular segment is in, and it gives me the nitrogen load in pounds. Another quick thing to show is if you want to undo this and get back to the beginning, you just press the home button and it should zoom out. Again, my bandwidth is a little bit slow. You can also choose something like the lasso if you wanted to pick an area, and then it would, as soon as this loads, it would actually give me what the sum of the area that I chose, what the load was for that particular area. Unfortunately, I'm having trouble getting it to go as fast as I am going. So let me try to get back to get out of this. So let me just show you what else, since see, I'm keeping track of time. It's been 9 minutes. The one other thing I wanted to show you within this is the nutrient management section for understanding sources. So if I take a look at this, this is the estimated nutrient applications for the 2020 progress year. If I just I'll pick something down here in the Rappahannock. I can hover over it like this. Let me go into the larger window. Again, I can open a separate window. And again, you can see on the right, I can filter this data comes by county. So really you're only being able to filter here by state and county, because that's how this nutrient application, this nutrient data is submitted via CAST at the county level. But so if I wanted to choose something like, I'll choose Rockingham, Virginia, I can just click on that and it should, let me make sure that it's filtering. I'm going to uncheck because I want to make sure it's keeping up with me. Let's see. I went north to Bradford because I couldn't get that one to come up. But so this is for Bradford County, PA. The applied nutrients appear up here, and it breaks it down into all three sources that we get in CAST, which would be biosolids, which is in the blue, This county doesn't have any biosolids application reported, so that's why you're not seeing any blue. Then fertilizer is in the orange and stored manure is red. If I hover over it again, you can see pounds applied. So for Bradford County, if I'm trying to target agriculturally, I definitely want to target fertilizer application because you can see that the majority, 67% of the nutrients applied are in synthetic fertilizer versus 32% for manure. Then if let's say I did want to target the manure though, I can then use this information to the right over here for what kind of manure or where is the manure mostly being targeted. So this is 32% is in stored manure. And what that means is manure that would be collected by the farmer and then land applied usually to crops. There's other manure that gets applied directly by the animal. So animal deposited manure is over here on the right. And for the animal deposited manure, you can see that 23% of it is deposited in the feed space, 6% would be deposited right into the riparian section of pasture, so basically going right into the stream, and 70% goes on down on pasture. So this gives me information that I could use to target BMP implementation. And also down here, we have the breakdown of where the manure is coming from. So the highest source in Bradford is dairy manure. So again, that helps me choose, what I want to target. I probably want to go for BMPs that would treat dairy, and then beef would be second. So that's other information about the nutrients applied. And again, this is for nitrogen, but I could also filter it for phosphorus, and it would change over and give me the information for phosphorus. So with that, I'll stop and head back to the homepage. And then one other thing I was going to show you all is here's where the management practices are, management practice implementation. And quickly, that's where when Kaylin was saying we have the BMP information, this is also by county. It's for every county in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. You can filter by your county up here, or you could also filter by a particular BMP. And it shows you the implementation amount for that county. This is for the entire watershed right here because I don't have anything checked. So what this is showing me here is that the abandoned mine reclamation BMP is basically only 0.11% implementation in the entire watershed based on what could be implemented based on the amount of mine land that we have. So for ag drainage management, only 0.22% implementation for this particular BMP. Another thing that's handy is down here, like Kaylin said, we have the cost per BMP per year. And this is in 2018 dollars. So it was recently updated from 2010 to 2018. So it's fairly, I know it's still behind, but it's a little bit closer in price to what you'd actually pay per acre per pound reduced. And if you're targeting nitrogen, you want to go with this column. And if you're targeting phosphorus, you'd want to pick from this one. So with that, I will stop. Stop share.
Any data dashboard questions for Ruth while we're still recently on the topic? I think we're.
Yeah, I know I went through that fast, so.
And you can always get in touch. Our contact information will be shared, and please do check out the data dashboard. There's many different modules and tabs and lots of really good information. And yeah, we're curious to hear feedback and how you might find it useful in your work. So yeah, we appreciate that.
It looks like another question just came in from Kristen Hushauer.
Yeah, we can answer that live. So the question was, so were these built in ArcGIS, and then the dashboard was made in Tableau? Ruth, if you want to take that, or I'm happy to, either way.
Yeah, I didn't see, let me look at the Q&A. Yeah, well, it's a combination of both, honestly. There are several modules that are done in Tableau, and then some that are done using ArcGIS. I think the land conservation module is already in ArcGIS, but our plan is to migrate all of the Tableau dashboards to ArcGIS because it's easier to update and more functional. So you can see like what I was using is understanding sources in Tableau, and that tends to happen, at least on my computer. It can be a little slow and glitchy. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to migrate everything to use the ArcGIS, and also using the Experience Builder app to try to get everything updated to the point where it'll be easier to update and quicker for you all to use. And we hope to have that finished by the end of 2023, along with all the updates that will bring us up to at least 2021 progress. So thanks for that question.
We do have a significant amount of time left. If attendees would like to ask your questions, feel free to do so now. Speakers, are there any questions that were previously answered in the Q&A that you feel maybe should be mentioned to the whole group, or?
Let's take a look.
Topics you feel?
And also, I want to make sure, I know it's in our slides, to do a plug for both the tributary summaries and the data dashboard. If you are interested in having us come and we can, talk one or both of those things to your group, we'd be really happy to do it. We're always looking to connect and showcase what the work that we're doing in the Bay program as a partnership and with our stakeholders, spread the word and talk to folks. And I guess in the day of the virtual age, that's fairly easy to have a meeting in, Southern Virginia or wherever. Even though it's far from the office, it's easy to get there online.
Yeah, so there was a question in the chat, and this person asked, is there a tributary summary specifically for the Appomattox River? And so for some of those smaller rivers and tributaries, they're included in more of the main tributaries, such as the James, which would include the Appomattox, the Chickahominy, and Elizabeth tributaries. So if there's a specific one that you're looking for within the list that we have on CAST and within the data dashboard, it will state the main tributary summary report, but then it will say like which ones it includes.
Another question just came in from an anonymous attendee. It looks like there's a few coming in, actually.
Great. So see that first one. I guess this does, so the question is about, or the comment is, this is an amazing compilation of data and well illustrated. How will the data set be kept current? And is there anticipated cycle for updating? So that applies to both tributary summaries and data dashboard. So Breck, do you want to take the tributary summary answer, and then Ruth, we can tag team data dashboard?
Sure.
Okay.
So for the tributary summaries, one thing that I also forgot to mention is that we are going to be including a climate change section in the summaries. It's not going to be specific for the tributary. It's going to be more Chesapeake watershed wide, getting wetter, getting drier in areas, more precipitation, such things like that, and its impact on living resources. So we're looking to get that section edited and approved. And then once that's done, we're hoping to make the entire tributary report automated. So with hopefully not too much effort, we can then update these on a more annual or rolling basis, because we do get a lot of our information and data from resources that are already updated annually. So we want to make sure that we're keeping up with that since we're compiling all of it. So right now, they're not all updated. I think most of them are at 2018 data, but we are looking to make sure that we can get it updated on a quicker basis. So hopefully by next calendar year, we'll have something in place to make that more automated.
And also with the tributary summaries, we are looking to have a complementary story map with each one. And that is, it's not a small task. So, we've got some help. We have a wonderful summer intern who's going to be starting, that was hired through the Chesapeake Research Consortium. And yeah, we're trying to set the groundwork for having a story map and having that also get updated every time we update a tributary summary report. So first we have to create them, and then we hope to roll that into the update process.
I think there was another question. Well, about as far as the data dashboard updating, like I said, the short answer to that question is no, we do not have a set cycle or schedule for doing the updates because we have been trying to do a migration and an updating at the same time. And then the person who originally kind of was in charge of the dashboard, Emily Trenicosta, our awesome person who kind of orchestrated all of this originally, left. And then since then we took over, and it's kind of been catch up since then. So we got the 2020 update done to kind of get us up to speed, and then immediately started the migration. So like I said, it's a priority because we understand that the data needs to be current in order to be relevant, especially to planners. So we're hoping in the next 6 months to get both 2021 and 2022 progress on the dashboard, and have that up to go and all in Esri so that it's a little quicker. So that's our goal, 6 to 9 months.
And to piggyback on that, so Ruth is absolutely right. We're working on getting things updated and this migration. So once we get the migration, things should run smoother and more cyclical. So what we also work with on the data dashboard side is we have a lot of data that comes into our program from partners, jurisdictions, lots of different places. And for example, progress data from our states, that's an annual update. Non-tidal network loads and trends are computed every 2 years. And there's other cycles with other types of monitoring data, modeling outputs, land use land cover data is going to get a huge update fairly soon. So we also, we are another source for all of those updates to come in, get processed and updated. So it should be a little more like clockwork as we get this migration, but yeah, just keep checking back. I guess when there's maybe a really, really big update, maybe we'll get a big press release out about the updated version. But yeah, new things are always coming in. So it is definitely a living resource, if you will. I guess there you go.
And then the next one, Kaylin, was the co-benefits.
Yes. For example, is there tree cover data? The heat island effect is a concern.
So for the co-benefits, we do have the buffer layer, the riparian buffer layer, which shows you buffer opportunities, but I think you're talking more like urban environments. Right now, the co-benefit information we have on there is basically takes a BMP and rates it in terms of other co-benefits that it provides. But we are trying to, so we have plans to add the land use change tool that is available. I think Chesapeake Conservancy has a land use change tool that shows you the change in all kinds of land cover from 2013 to 2017 land use imagery. So we have plans to link that tool so that you can see tree cover loss, and you can also just see the lack of tree cover with the high resolution imagery. So we're working on that currently, and that would probably be linked to the land policy and planning conservation module, but I'm not sure. But right now for co-benefits, it's mostly in terms of just ranking the BMPs that exist in terms of their co-benefits. We have also have some really nice like case studies. You can search for examples of projects that have been done that have provided a high amount of co-benefits. And it gives you all the backgrounds for those case studies under the co-benefits. Can you think of anything else, Kaylin? Did you want to add anything to that?
We are thinking a lot about co-benefits. There's a great co-benefits module that's also accessible on the CAS website. So yeah, this is definitely at the top of mind, and yeah, something that's definitely across different dashboards for sure. And then there's another question that came in addition to the dashboard and the web map, would there be the ability to have access to data directly, either as downloadable files or map services? So we're using the data dashboard as a hub to interact with these data. Many of these data are available directly from their sources. I know, for example, the USGS non-tidal network data, you can get directly from their website, all for free. So there's land cover data you can request to have smaller subsets of the files emailed to you directly. So there's should always be a link to a resource or where the data came from, so that can be followed up with. And there's other sites that have downloadable mapping tools for the data dashboard. It's a place, it's a hub, but it's a starting point, a foundation to get to those sources.
Quickly, just to add to that, this is something I neglected to do. So let me show you super quick. I'm going to share my screen one more time. The data that I did show you on so this is for estimated nutrient application. If you go down here in the corner to the lower right-hand corner, it will give you the option to download the data for this, and also gives you the option to share. So for anything you pull up here, it is downloadable. And I think that's true for most all of the dashboards that are in Tableau. You can actually download that data. So I forgot to say that.
Caitlin
somebody
had to
asked-
hop off for another call, but if there are no other, did we just get another question in? I think so, yep.
It says providing an estimated dollar value of the tree canopy based on the research data would be a great benefit. Tying the tree canopy level to saved stormwater costs and other costs as well, standpoint can really get locality's attention. Yes, that is definitely a good point. And we are trying to make sure that with these co-benefits, that this is throughout the entire Bay program, that we're not just connecting it to, how can efforts help what the Bay program is trying to do, but also help efforts that, planning and localities are already trying to do. So if you're trying to help with, stormwater cost, how can doing that also benefit the Bay program? And that could be tree canopy.
And we just have a remark from an attendee.
Thank you.
Standing presentation, which it has. So thank you very much, Breck and Ruth, and to Caitlin as well. We appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your work, and I think it was really informative.
Thank you. Yes, and we're happy, like Caitlin said, to give these types of presentations to other groups. If you're interested, we can make it more tailored to your region, whether that's we saw Virginia was a high number here. So we really hope that these tools can be utilized and are useful to you. So any feedback would be helpful.
And all attendees, keep an eye out for an email from us with links to the presentation and the other resources that were shared. That will be coming in a few days or so. Thank you, and the link to the recording as well, which will be on the YouTube page. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Just as I'm ending, it looks like we might be getting another question in, which we have time for. So if you're open to answering it, you can. And then you'll also have the opportunity to reach out to the speakers with their contact information sent out in the follow-up as well.
I think it was more of a comment than a question, but thank you. And I did want to draw attention to Laura Cattell-Knoll put in the chat about the tree cover fact sheets. And thanks, Laura, for reminding us about that, because a lot of work just went into that using the high resolution imagery. And there's one for every county. And they also link in the dollar value of tree canopy. So thanks for reminding us of that.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.